I love the US. Many people do. All sorts of climates, great shopping, entertainment, sports, and money-making opportunities. You know it. But you're stuck in a never-ending queue in the US to obtain your green card for you and your family. And you've already spent years there working under the H1B visa or other types of special occupation employee-driven programs in the US. Well, here's a news flash. By now, you could have already had your Canadian citizenship and passport if you had spent half that time here in Canada. And I'm not exaggerating. It's never too late. And the bonus part is, after you become a Canadian citizen, there's no obligation to stay here and you can return to the US or your home country if you like to. Today in this short video, we're covering your options under the Startup Visa program to Canada for applicants from the US who are applying and they're under the H1B visa. Expect nothing less than the exposed truth and nothing but, just like the rest of our videos. Who am I? I'm Reza from England, Canada, licensed immigration practitioner, and the office specializes in helping businesses, people, and families move across borders. Is this what I do non-stop for a living 24/7? No, of course not. I'm not an actual full-time YouTuber, but I work hands-on with our licensed team here in our office, working on actual applications and communicating with the immigration departments both inside the country and overseas on a daily basis, representing our clients. Why are we posting this video? Well, these are made for the purpose of sharing our hands-on immigration knowledge with our worldwide audience, including but not exclusive to existing clients, potential new applicants, and immigration consultants and agencies, whether inside the country or overseas. And of course, if you're thinking about immigrating, we're here to help. Get a free email assessment for eligible applicants by filling out the form down below in the description of this video. And of course, if you're an active immigration practitioner, we can assist you with outsourcing your back office operation, including assessments, processing, pre and post landing support. We are a global mobility solution provider for Canada and beyond. You probably already know all about the Startup Visa program to Canada, as it's one of the most popular programs for Canadian business immigration. In a nutshell, you can be a solo founder or co-founders in a group of up to 5 members. Not all of you need to be immigrating to Canada, but the ones who wish to apply for immigration need to control the company voting shares on a combined level and meet basic immigration eligibility criteria for Canada and the Startup Visa program. Obtain your letter of support from a designated incubator, venture capital, and or designated angel investor, and you're good to go with a permanent residency application and optional work permit to enter anywhere in Canada except Quebec while your PR is on the process. Let's dive into it. As an H1B visa holder in the US, you can apply for a Canadian Startup Visa program to obtain your Canadian permanent residency. There's nothing preventing you from doing so. However, you need to keep the following in mind. I've received numerous questions and requests from H1B visa holders in the US about coming to Canada and applying under the SUV or the Startup Visa program, and how they can maintain their status in the US for immigration purposes while their PR is under process here in Canada. It's tricky, but not impossible, and we're going to cover those options today in this video. Option 1. You want to stay in the US and maintain your temporary immigration status there under the H1B visa, working for your US employer, and also apply remotely for your Canadian permanent residency under the Startup Visa program. As you know, you can't technically work for any other company which is for profit, or whether you're being compensated or not while you're under H1B visa, even if you own the company, even if it's outside of the US. Now, the trick with the Canadian Startup Visa program is that you apply for your Canadian PR from outside of the country, let's say while you're in the US, and you have other shareholders in your group that will run and make decisions for the startup business which you're starting or trying to move to Canada. Technically, you can't do the decisions or be involved for this business because you're under the H1B visa and you want to stay in the country, in the US. But let's say you had a friend, cousin, brother, or sister from anywhere in the world, and they were also shareholders in your startup group, less than 50%, because maybe they're not immigrating, right? So they could be running the business and you could be financing the whole operation without being involved in any decision making until you decide to leave the US or give up your H1B visa status. This is perfectly fine for Canada if you have a clear roadmap and proper documents documentation that meets the IRCC requirements under the Startup Visa program. Keep in mind that Canada's Startup Visa program is completely disconnected from the real business world. So you just need to make sure the government officers are happy with the documentation you provide. And if you know what will satisfy them, then it's not that difficult. The key is the progress and traction and commitment and intention you have for that startup that you're planning to launch or move to Canada. Canadian immigration is much more flexible than the US. Here's option 2. You're in the US and you want to apply under Startup Visa program to Canada and move over to Canada with a work permit as soon as possible. Either working remotely for your US employer from Canada or letting go and working on your own on your startup full-time in Canada. An interesting fact to note for Canadian immigration is that you can technically be inside Canada and work remotely for any overseas employer as long as you're not participating and getting paid in the local labor market in Canada. In theory, you can do this on a visitor visa as well. However, under the Startup Visa program, you have the option to apply for a work permit as soon as you and your other co-founders have submitted your permanent residency application. Even if you don't have your temporary PR file number yet, you can still apply for your work permit. Technically, you could be inside Canada on a work permit in a few months after you have your letter of support from the designated organization in Canada, which is post-PR application, as processing times for your work permits are much faster from the Canadian Visa Processing Center in the US compared to other parts of the world. As you move over to Canada, you can either technically just become self-employed for under your startup under the closed work permit and work on your own startup business, or continue your contract with your US employer working for them remotely, perhaps as an independent contractor. There's no obligation or restrictions in Canada preventing you from running both sides. And of course, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to keep updated on the latest startup visa and when the government will actually implement the open work permit option for startup visa applicants. Keep in mind, both options I just mentioned outside of Canada until your permanent residencies are processed and there's no obligation to enter Canada. However, it would be unfair for me to not mention this to new applicants. Based on our experience of consulting and guiding over 100 startup visa groups to Canada, the IRCC, which is the Canadian Immigration Department, does like, or let's say expect, someone from your startup, whether it's you or one of your co-founders, to enter Canada and do a setup and business program. Even if it's half there inside Canada and half the time overseas, it's just a piece of advice to consider that we've noticed over the past 12 to 24 months. Key features of Canadian immigration startup visa you should be aware of before applying. A. Canadian immigration under the startup program allows you to apply for your spouse and common law and dependent children to join you in Canada with a work permit, and for them, a spousal open work permit and or study permit if you plan to enter Canada first before your PR is approved. They will also receive their PR at the same time you do. There's no obligation for them to join you in Canada in case they're not interested while they're staying overseas in any other country until the final permanent residency is issued, in which case they do need to enter Canada. B. Dependent children can study for free in public and elementary schools and secondary schools in Canada under your work permit. And C, dependent children who want to study in college or university can also opt for Canadian tuition at participating universities and colleges in Canada if you have valid closed work permit inside Canada. Only specific universities and colleges participate in this program, and if you compare US tuitions to Canadian, that's a no-brainer. And I don't think I have to explain that. D, your spouse or common law partner's open work permit allows them to work or study full-time, or they could just not study or work at all. It's fully flexible and no obligations, and it's dependent on your valid work permit under the Startup Visa program. As an H1B visa holder, here are the key decisions you need to make before you apply for the Startup Visa program for Canada. 1, do you want to maintain your work and visa status in the US while applying and waiting for your Canadian permanent residency? Question 2, do you want to break rank and move to Canada ASAP with your optional work permit? Question 3, is your family going to join you in Canada before the permanent residency is issued, or wait until the very end before they join you or you all move? Question 4, do you have enough funds to apply for the work permit under the Startup Visa program, as it has different requirements than the minimum settlement funds under the permanent residency? And we'll include a link in our article with this video on our website. Question number 5, do you have enough funds to apply under the Startup Visa program? Well, unfortunately, it's a pay-to-play process, and you need to budget for the incubator or designated organization cohort program fees, which are not that cheap. Well, they're relatively cheap sometimes they're not. The government fees, you have to consider those, and your investment into the startup and settlement funds availability, and any consulting fees in case you hire a company or person to assist you from the A to Z process in this whole startup visa journey. Question number 6, timelines for the startup visa program processing are 18 to 20 months for the final PR after application, and 2 to 4 months for your work permit after the letter of support. As long as you meet the eligibility requirements of the program, this is what you need to consider before applying and whether that matches your professional, family, and personal goals and timelines. And number 7, no matter where you're born and in which language you've studied, or whether you've worked for 10 years in the US or in any other English-speaking country, you still need to provide proof of language ability under the Canadian Startup Visa program, and actually under most Canadian permanent residency programs. This is only a requirement for the main applicant. Your spouse and children are exempt. The language requirement is a CLB5, and in the IELTS exam score world, this equates to 5.554, reading 4, all bands 5. You cannot even get half a score less in any of these bands. I hope we've given you a good insight and high-level overview of what to expect, how to plan from the US for your startup visa application. We have a wide selection of incubators, over 10 of them, and venture capital designated organizations ready to consider you as their next startup business prospects. Don't be stuck with just one option for your letter of support. Keep all your options on the table before you apply. If you like immigration hacks, creative immigration solutions, or key analysis and exposed truth about immigration policies and updates, then you can click on the subscribe button for our YouTube channel. Stay informed with more videos on our startup visa program and other great solutions in our 2024 content lineup on our YouTube channel. If you're thinking about immigrating, whether permanently or temporarily, you're at the right place. We just don't offer immigration, we offer solutions. I can guarantee only one point. You'll know what to expect, entire process clearly laid out for you, and all the risks identified, including costs. Our team speaks over 9 languages, and we help applicants from over 50 different countries during their immigration process. Click the link below this video and get a free email assessment for eligible applicants. And if you're ready to apply for a one-on-one consultation with me or any of my licensed team members at Ingwe, you can book a session directly using the consultation link, you guessed it, in the description of this video.